Hi, this is Tom Soane, and I've got a quote for you. You don't have to be great to start. You've just got to start to be great. How awesome is that? I thought I would try and relate that to property, and it is perfect for property. And anybody who wants to get into property investment, or being a landlord, or being an investor landlord, or any kind of property investing, then this is for you. Because remember that quote, you don't have to be great to start, you've just got to start to be great. Now that relates precisely to property by saying you don't have to be a prolific property investor to start. You just have to start to be a prolific property investor, which fits. And when I translated it for myself in my own brain like that, it really rang a bell for me. Because look, I see so many people that don't get into property investing because they think they should have loads of money, or they think they should do tons and tons and tons of training courses and education and all of that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not disagreeing with education, by the way, and this will become very clear in a minute. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to have all of that stuff to start property investing. You don't need tons and tons of money. Look, money is helpful for investing in property, yes, but there are strategies that you can adopt and put effort into that require no money or very minimal money. And I've done a video actually giving you 4 strategies on investing. I mean, there's hundreds of strategies to invest in property, but I've given another video which has got 4 strategies for investing in property with either little money or no money, whichever position you're in. Anyway, but the big problem I see is there's so many people that first of all think, well, I can't invest in property because I've got no money, or I've got very little money, or I'm scared of risk, or I haven't got any equity, or I haven't got a pension or anything like that. That stops people. And I'm about to tell you how you don't need that to stop you. Actually, you don't need money, equity, pensions, inheritance, redundancy payouts, savings. Look, it helps, but I'm going to tell you that you don't. But that's the first thing. The second thing that always stops people from actually investing is they think they've got to have a bloody a doctorate in property investing. You really, really don't. Now, it starts somewhere, and that's what I'm getting at with this point. You don't have to be a serial property investor, or you don't have to be a veteran property investor to be able to start property investing, because every single property investor on the planet started somewhere. I certainly did. I only started my property investing a few years ago, and before that I've been in I've been an estate agent and letting agent for years, but never actually invested myself until a few years ago. Before that, I was helping other people invest in buy-to-let properties and flips and all of that, but never actually for myself. So you could say that I was holding myself back, and I probably was, because I was a little bit fearful of all of these strategies that could get me into property myself. So I never actually did it until a few years ago, when I just thought, do you know what, fuck it, I'm going for it. And I went for it. I went for one property, and actually that's still my best property. But I did that, and what I'm saying is that you can do that. And depending on what strategy you go with, and when I refer to strategies, I probably mean methods. There are loads of methods of investing in a property, and it only takes one to be your first one. And your first one is only the beginning. And if you want to really go on and make tons of money from property, then, well, you have to start. If you don't start, you'll never go anywhere. And if you're Usain Bolt, he starts as fast as he can, and then he runs as fast as he can, and then he finishes as fast as he can. And do you know what? That little analogy is spot on, really. Because actually you can go as fast as you like or as slow as you like, but eventually you're going to get somewhere, and no matter how fast you go. You can go slowly, you can go quickly, but you've got to go somewhere if you want to get somewhere. Sounds really obvious. So look, you don't have to be a highly educated property investor in order to start property investing. I'll help you. I'll just give you, look, the first method off the top of my head. If you've got no money whatsoever, then you can just go for a rent-to-rent property deal, And look, I'm not going to go into detail on that right now. I'm actually going to do a whole webinar on rent to rent, rent to serviced accommodation, buy to let, flip to sell, joint ventures, all of that sort of stuff. Raising finance is another way that you can buy property and get into property investment without any money. And it seems like, I feel like a lot of people believe that they don't know how to raise finance. But have you ever borrowed a tenner off your mate? There you go, you raised finance. You ever borrowed 100 quid? Ever got a mortgage? Ever taken out a loan? Ever got a credit card? You've raised finance. Now, I don't agree with borrowing at high interest rates in order to buy property unless the mathematics works. Don't get into like silly debt for investing in property, but also don't be afraid of debt. It's all just a number. Even credit cards have a number. Now, I don't run up my credit cards to invest in property. I also don't take out high interest loans to buy property, but that is a route. And you know what? It's all just maths. And I'll give you an example. If I'm going to take a credit card, if I'm going to take a load of money out on a credit card and I need it for a year, let's just say for 1 year, and that credit card is 20% interest, that's really high. Credit cards are terrible. Let's just say, then I need to make sure that the return on my investment is enough to pay off that credit card with all the interest and still make a profit. And that's the mathematics. It's the same with a high interest loan. If I take out a loan which is 10% for the year, it's an annual rate of 10%, I must make sure that the mathematics means that I can pay off that loan and the interest and still make a profit. And that's how you profit from debt. That's the very simplest form. Anyway, look, there's much more complex ways of taking out finance, raising finance, and all of that sort of stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is that you don't have to be a financial expert. You don't have to be a property expert. You don't have to be an investment expert in order to start the ball rolling and get going on your first property. All you have to do is work out a simple mathematical equation. How much am I going to borrow? How much am I going to pay on the amount that I borrow? And how much profit will I make after all of it is paid back? There you go. So if you're taking out something a bit longer term, where you're doing like a rent to rent or something like that, then you just need to make the same equation, the same sum, the same calculation ongoing. If you're going to pay back, I don't know, 3.5% on your borrowing every single year, then you need to make sure that you're still making a profit once you've paid what you need to pay and the interest. So that's a very quick insight. So that all relates back to that initial point I was trying to make, that, you know what? Hey everyone, if you want to invest in property, right, which I think a lot of us do, really. So yeah, you know, you sit around the dinner table with your friends and family. How often do you talk about property in one way or another? Somebody's done this to their property. My house is worth that. Your house is worth that. Down the road's just sold, or down the road's on the market. They're way overpriced. Next door's having a full refurbishment. They're having a loft extension. It's a very common topic, and I think somewhere inside everybody, they'd love to invest in property. And I think it's the attachment to property that we all have. You know, we all live in a property. It doesn't even matter if you're on a houseboat. You still live in a property. That's your property. You live in a house, you live in a flat, you live in a townhouse, mansion, detached, semi-detached, whatever, doesn't matter. Live in a tent. That's your property. So we all have that attachment to property. But also I think it's because we, in relative terms to the general person, we all talk in such big numbers when it comes to property. And I think that scares a lot of people. I think first of all, you get a bit fearful of the big numbers in property. And I don't mean to patronize anyone there. You know, I'm sorry. What I'm getting at is that sometimes when you're talking in, you know, hundreds of thousands, to the general person, that's a lot of money. And it's only until you really start understanding money and finance and business and property that you really understand that money is not something to be scared of. Actually, it's just a number. It's just a thing that can work for you. And you know, I'm reading one of Rob Moore's books at the moment, Life and Leverage, and also Rich Dad Poor Dad. And you know what? Money is something that works for you if you want it to. Or you can just go month to month, getting your paycheck, paying off your bills, and enjoying what's left. It's up to you. I would say you can make money work for you, and you can build your assets up to work for you. Anyway, different topic. Shock. So look, what I'm trying to say, believe it or not, I'm really trying to inspire you. I'm really trying to motivate you. If you do want to get into property investment, but you're a little bit fearful of something's stopping you, your brain will make excuses because it's something you're scared of. And I'm trying to say, be scared, be fearful. That's good. I want you to be scared, because if you're not scared, then you're probably not thinking of everything before you do it. But if you're not doing it, then you're probably thinking of too much before you do it. Now, I want you to think of it like this, right? If you buy a property for £100,000 right now, and you raise 25 grand as your deposit, and you borrow a mortgage of 75,000, and property prices drop, right? Let's say you're gonna buy that, and you're gonna do it up. And then it's going to be worth 150,000. I'm just making these numbers up, right? So you bought it for 100, you've borrowed 25,000, or you've raised 25,000, or used 25,000 as a deposit, 25%, and you've got a mortgage of 75,000. And now you're going to do that place up, and it's going to be worth 150 grand. Nice little deal. And then in the meantime, once that job's done, by the way, it's worth, you're just doing a refurbishment throughout. Once that job's done, you know it's worth 150 grand. Now, let's say property prices crash. Now, I think there's a little subconscious voice in a lot of people that want to get into property investment, that if the property prices crash, you're going to lose everything. Just not true. If property prices crash, let's look at a few crashes. Well, look, I'm not going to give you stats and figures because you're all in different parts of the country to me, but let's just say property prices drop by 20%. Let's use that exact calculation. You've bought it for 100, you've used 25k of your own money as the deposit, you've raised a mortgage for 75,000, and you're doing a refurbishment, say 10 grand, right? So you've spent 110,000, and property prices crashed by 20%. I mean, that's mad, by the way. That is a crazy amount for property prices to drop by. I don't even remember the last time property prices crashed by 20%. That's certainly not been in my time, in my city anyway. Look, in your city it might be different, so come and invest in my city. But let's say property prices do crash by 20%. Worst case scenario, let's say. So your property was going to be worth 150, but it's dropped by 20%. So it's now only going to be worth 120. You can still walk away without losing money and actually still making a little bit of money if something dramatically terrible happens in that 6 months between you bought the property, you done it up, you got it on the market, you sold it, and it's completed. So that 6 months, in that 6 months, if property prices crash by 20%, in that 6 months, you get what I'm going at here. It's like a needle in a haystack. Is that the right term? Who cares? So if property prices in that 6 months crash by 20%, then yes, you might only make a tiny bit of profit on that exact example I just gave you there. And it's all relative, it's all relative. You spend, if you buy a place for 50 grand, you still need to raise 25%, rest as a mortgage, spend a bit doing it up, it's going to be worth an amount when it's done. So that's why I'm trying and hoping that I'm inspiring you to, look, I'm no inspirational character. I'm no bloody multi-millionaire influencer. But I'm just trying to inspire you to say, do you know what? Yeah, you're scared. Yeah, you are fearful of things going wrong. But what can go wrong? What's likely to go wrong? What's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is, you've got to calculate your own worst case scenario, but the chances are you'll still have a property that is worth something. It's very rare that you will be left with nothing. In fact, I can't even think of how. The only way you'd be left with nothing, and I'd like your feedback on this, what are your worst case scenarios? But for me, just off the top of my head, right here, right now, the only way you could be left with nothing is if all of a sudden the house falls down and you didn't have buildings insurance on it. But you're not that dumb, right? You're going to have buildings insurance, and anyway, you wouldn't be able to get a mortgage if you didn't have buildings insurance. So let's face it, we're looking at the worst case scenario is actually that property prices drop. Now, if property prices drop, we'll get it on the market, we'll get it for rent, we'll put a tenant in there, we'll sit on it until prices recover, which they always do, and then we'll sell it later. There's an option for you. We might have to sell it at minimal profit just to get it off, get it on, get our money back out. Because look, even if you're investing in shares, then it's the same thing. If the share price tumbles, then a lot of investors will just quickly grab their money back out and minimize their loss, or make sure they just don't lose anything. Very common strategy. Warren Buffett says it. Rule number 1, don't lose any money. Rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. And I believe that, actually in property, it's actually quite difficult to lose money on doing a flip. Unless, look, again, I'm not saying you can't make a mistake, but it's difficult to lose money if you do the right due diligence on a deal. So look, get going. If you want to get somewhere, you've got to get going. If you want to go somewhere, if you want to make it in property, you've got to start with your first. Another Rob Moore quote, which is perfect here. Start now, get perfect later. Now let me translate that into our world of property. Start now, make more money later. How about that? What I'm getting at is that get your first deal done now. And you might own, let's say you do your first deal now, you get a buy-to-let property and you're making £300 a month now. That's your first one. In the bag, job done, gone. Later on, you can learn from that and you might make £350 a month on the next one, and then £400 a month on the next one, and so on, and so on, and so on. Start now, get perfect later. Invest now, get more return on your investment later. I'm making this up now. I'm trying to come out with as many inspirational quotes as I can, but I love that one that says, you don't have to be great to start. Just start to be great. That's awesome. I always thought when I was doing this, when I first started out in this, and look, forgive the rant, but I'm driving to Newcastle. I've got a 6-hour journey here because, by the way, I'm doing a series of features tomorrow about investing in Newcastle with there's a contact I have up there. We're going to talk, and I'm going to leave it as a surprise, but actually the podcast will probably be going out before this one does. So it's a guy called Tony Fairs, absolute property legend in Newcastle. So I'm going to be doing a feature with him, a series of features. We're going to be looking at properties that I'm buying. We're going to be looking at his experiences and advice about investing in Newcastle. We're going to have a little tour around the good and bad spots of Newcastle. So if anyone's interested in that, cool. Anyway, back to the point. That's how my brain works. So look, I guess what I'm trying to say, actually, there's another tip, right? I'm going to finish with this tip. If you are still really unsure, right, because this is the emotional aspect. I'm trying to teach you about investing mathematically and logically and sensibly, and doing your due diligence and calculating property investment properly. But there is also a massive emotional aspect to this, and I don't care who you are, there is a major emotional aspect to this, because you've got to overcome your fears. I was terrified about investing in my first property because all of a sudden I was doing it for myself. Scary. But you have to overcome that fear. Otherwise, you might as well just go and stay in your job, get your paycheck every week, and live month to month. Maybe save a little bit of money here, save a little bit there, but never actually get any other income other than your monthly paycheck. I'm American now. So you could do that if you allow your fears of property investing to overcome you. But what I would say is that, what would you rather have? Your first property investment deal makes you £5,000 profit, or your first property investment deal makes you £150 a month profit, or nothing, or to have never gone for it. I know what I would rather do. So I'm trying to get you to see that I was also in your position. I know I had a property background anyway, but that was only in estate agency and letting agency. And I still own that, the letting agency and the estate agency. But I was there, and I tell you what, it took me 6 months of viewing properties before I actually took the plunge, because I was scared. But you know what? I had to overcome that fear because I had raised finance and it was sat in the bank doing nothing, costing me money. So, you know, I had to just go, right, solid, I'm gonna have to do something with this money. And I actually ended up buying a really good property. Anyway, overspent on that property, but you know what? I made profit, moved on to the next one. So you can do it too. And you know what? My mum always raised me to believe that I could do anything I wanted to. And I'm saying the same thing to you. You can do anything you want to do. You want to invest in property? You can invest in property. Got no money? Doesn't matter. Just takes a bit of hard work. Takes a bit of overcoming your fear. It takes a bit of opening yourself up and understanding yourself and understanding that you're scared. That's all right to be scared. Do you know what? When you speak to any person who describes somebody as fearless, that's wrong. And I heard this the other day on a podcast, actually, that nobody is fearless. Nobody is fearless. Actually, what the people are that come across to you as fearless is very, very good at overcoming that fear and managing that fear and understanding that fear. And that's the same here. It's all fear in here. Sorry, this is just the way my brain works. But that's what I'm getting at. There is fear. You can not be fearless, but you can fear less. Oh, hello, I like that. You cannot be fearless, but you can fear less. Hey, so quick, someone write that down before I forget about it. And it's in this video, which I will never watch. Anyway, so look, I hope that helps some way, somehow, because look, there is a lot of psychology involved here. There's a lot of mindset, mentality. There's a lot of powerful stuff that is far more powerful than just calculating sums and property deals, bricks and mortar, finance numbers. There is so much more to overcome than just those things. So I hope that helps. Look, hey, why don't we share this round? If you know anybody that wants to get into property but is struggling with that first step, then let me know. But I want to finish, actually. I was supposed to finish with something else. I want to finish by saying where I might fit into all of this, because actually I am a property investor, and I have worked with many property investors. Not only have I gone and found them good investment properties that they have bought and made profit from, hundreds of them over the last 20 odd years, but I have also now invested for myself multiple times. I now have a portfolio, albeit relatively small compared to where I want to be. Remember, if you follow me, by the way, remember my first target is to reach 30 properties. So you're with me at the moment on that, right? So I am doing this now. So I am learning myself now, albeit I am learning from a platform of experience and education anyway, but I'm actually very new to the whole mentality side and the mindset of a property investor. And that's why I made this podcast, The Anonymous Landlord, because anonymous doesn't mean nobody knows who you are. Not to me anyway. Being an anonymous landlord means that you're anonymous to being a landlord. Everything's done for you, everything's managed for you, it's delegated, it's automated, it's systemized so that you can enjoy your money, because what's the point in earning loads of money from property if you've got no time or energy to bloody enjoy it? So that's why I did this podcast, because I thought, geez, there's so much more here than just borrowing some money, buying a property and selling it for that money. There's so much more than numbers and logic. There's fear and love and I don't know, bravado, there's shyness, there's confidence, there's extroverts and introverts, there's so many more factors to fear. Fear of accepting a low offer, fear of getting a refurbishment wrong, fear of what colour to do the walls. So that's why I did this, because I'm fascinated by not just the mindset of a property investor, but also how you can improve your mindset as a property investor so that you can get better deals. And I'm doing that now. I've developed myself through education. I listen to podcasts, I watch videos, I consume as much content as I can. I'm reading books, I'm speaking to as many, not just property investors, but business leaders and property leaders and financial guys and construction guys and girls and all of this stuff. All of those sorts of people I'm consuming from, and you do the same. But it all has to start somewhere. You cannot just do that. Well, you could, I suppose, if you just enjoy the educational side, but you cannot just learn and never do anything. If you never do anything, you'll never go anywhere. If you never go anywhere, you'll never get anywhere. I mean, I'm coming out with all these bangers right now, and I'm hoping you're writing them down. Anyway, right. So where do I fit with all of this? So that's why I did this podcast, first of all, yes, but I also am here to help. And I get loads of people message me and email me asking for my advice. Some people have found a property that they want my advice on, how they can maximize their profits. Some people ask me for strategies. They tell me how much money they've got to spend and they want a strategy of how they can maximize on it. Some people ask me for a strategy of, in fact, I did one the other day. Someone's got 4 properties. They want to keep one of them but use the other 3 properties and turn them into 10. So I've put together a strategy for her. In fact, I've got a call with her in about an hour. So I do that, and that's where I can support you and help you in making the most out of the money that you've got and the properties that you've got, or the money that you haven't got. So hopefully that all inspires you to jump on your computer or your phone, send me a message, send me an email, and get involved. Because I am actually, definitely, and 100%, 1,000,000% here to help you. So that's the end of this episode. And like I said, I'm on my way to Newcastle. I've got a phenomenal episode that I'm recording tomorrow with the guru of property investing in Newcastle. So I hope you're going to join me for that. Hope you're going to join me for the next episode. And don't forget to message me, and I will speak to you then. Because what's the point in having all this money from property if you've got no time or energy to enjoy it? My name's Tom Soane, and this is The Anonymous Landlord.